Welcome back. With the news of the last few days and obviously the Super Bowl coming up, it seems like the Christie administration has been able to get at least a break from the nonstop press and investigations over the GWB. Well, that seemed to change in the last couple of days. The investigation continues at multiple levels now on the state and the federal level with questions regarding who knew what and when about Bridgegate. And we're going to hopefully get some of those answers in the coming weeks and months. Well, tonight, there's other damaging allegations that have nothing to do with that particular story, and we get them from really two different sources. You have the former Huntington County prosecutor, Bennett Barlin. He claims the Christie administration is corrupt. Those his words. Now, this all stems from a criminal investigation of a local sheriff back in 2010. You may remember the story vaguely. Barlin claims that members of the state attorney general's office stopped the indictment and fired him for objecting here. Now, the case is now at a New Jersey state court. Now, you'll remember that particular case, he was going after a sheriff who was a very close associate, or at least alleged close associate, for now Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno. Also, one of the people involved in this was a contributor to the Christie campaign. So on those fronts, he says, hey, you know what? You don't believe me? Let's unseal the documents, put them out there so the public can see everything. We're going to see how that one plays out. Now, of course, many of you will remember Hoboken Mayor Dawn Zimmer and her recent claims about Sandy funding being withheld.
You know, the fact is that the lieutenant governor came to Hoboken. She pulled me aside in the parking lot, and she said, I know it's not right. I know these things should not be connected, but they are. And if you tell anyone, I'll deny it.
Now, for her part, the lieutenant governor unequivocally denied these allegations.
Mayor Zimmer's version of our conversation in May of 2013 is not only false, but is illogical. Any suggestion that Sandy funds were tied to the approval of any project in New Jersey is completely false.
However, today's New York Times has more details about what happened in early May. Now, the lengthy piece, it talks about the events that led up to the meeting between Zimmer and Guadagno. It's mostly framed around a new development project in the northern part of Hoboken, as well as more flooding protection for the city. Now, much of Hoboken, as you all remember, was underwater for days after Hurricane Sandy. And guys, on both of these fronts, it's the biggest fear, and I've heard two different theories on this, is, and I also know some people close to the administration who say they would be absolutely shocked if there was some smoking gun that tied the governor to the bridge shutdown. However, there is belief that more than just one person in the administration, because of logic and those familiar with it, knew about what was going on. It'll play itself out in the investigation. So they say, there's the bridge thing, but possibly more damning is the drip, drip, drip of all these other allegations that paint a mosaic here of basically a candidate who's using his authority and his power and judicial power in the process here to get his way either for political favors or for payback. And that could be as damaging, if not more, than even the GWB scandal. What do you think, Dom, the administration should be more worried about tonight with what we've seen for the last few weeks?
In my opinion, they should be more concerned, the Christie administration, with what's going on lately. Because this is the stuff that U.S. attorneys are sharpening their knives for. And this goes back to my original point, Richard, about this governor. You're not just a bully in public, and then it comes to an end. And then do you think that person's going to change in private? No. And we're seeing that play out now publicly. This governor has got a huge problem. I don't know if you'll get that smoking gun. He's smart, former U.S. attorney. For example, it's alleged that he preferred to talk via text message as opposed to email because he knew that it's harder for feds to subpoena and get text messages. But we'll see how this all plays out. My prediction at the end of the day, this governor is almost done. Put a fork in him.
I sense you don't agree.
Dominic, my good friend, as you always say. No, I think there's a couple issues here. Number one, anytime you're a public official, or anybody, frankly, in business or public or not, when you have depositions, discovery, a U.S. attorney, any kind of assembly or Senate committee controlled by your opponents, of course it's never a good thing. And that drip, drip, drip is going to be challenging, no question about it. Now, I'm not going to call Mayor Zimmerman a liar, but we'll wait and see whether she's factual or not. This woman is anti-development to begin with. The 2 previous mayors were supportive of it. You're talking about $1 billion of development in Hoboken being offered by a very
One
reputable
second, I'll let you finish, but
developer.
we can debate the merits of whether the project should or shouldn't have been built. What you clearly get from the Times reporting today is that if it was contingent on funding aid here for Sandy relief to get this project built, that has nothing to do with the merits of the project.
I didn't read the story that way. I saw that story as absolutely positively no quid pro quo. I saw a conversation taking place about Sandy, and then another conversation, maybe at the same time with different people, saying, wait a second, what's going on with $1 billion development here in New Jersey?
You don't think that a mayor wouldn't read between the lines and say, either I go along to get along here or I'm going to have some problems?
This mayor is anti-development. This is $1 billion development in Hoboken.
I don't think,
and also this developer gave 3 proposals on how to try to mitigate flooding.
You're still debating.
This is back in May, prior to Sandy.
It's not about the development. It could be the best project on God's green earth. That's not the issue. The issue is
this mayor is trying to use Sandy and the lies behind it and the funding she claims she wanted she didn't get, where she would have taken all the funding for New Jersey for her city, which is great to ask for, but she's trying to throw all this together, push development aside at this point, and she took part of the development and made it part of the overflow for the water.
Should they be worried?
For flooding.
Absolutely. They should be worried. I think public polling since both events certainly shows that Mr. Christie is in trouble, both in his home state and should he decide to run for president, both in the Republican primary as well as should he get through a Republican primary. Yeah, I mean, listen, more and more is going to come out this day and age with the internet, with everything else that's available. All this stuff's going to come out. There's no question about it. It's only a question of time. There's a bad, bad smell here.
Whether you're a Democrat operative or not, don't you see a Democratic anti-development mayor using this as an opportunity to kill development for a city?
With all due respect, I am agnostic in this one only because he'll accuse me of being the suck-up for Christie. I'm a fan of the governor, okay? So I'm not rooting for his failure in any way. However, if you objectively sit back, it's not what the Hoboken mayor said. You got the Elizabeth mayor. You got the Jersey City mayor.
Elizabeth mayor was about a DMV that got closed.
You're smarter than this, Obi, to think that the facts matter even more than the perception. The perception is, there's 2 parts to this.
I'm listening.
One, that you've got a bunch of elected officials who've been under his foot, whether it's fair or not, and finally they say, let me tell you what's really been going on. Then you've got the 800-pound gorilla, the investigation. But what I find most fascinating is, where have been the Republican cavalcade of voices rushing to his defense?
I'm sitting here tonight.
Okay.
And
you know what?
You
Other
don't
than
think
Richard
you don't
Bramnick,
think
I must have missed.
You don't think Andrew Cuomo does the same thing here in New York to our electeds, and they're too fearful to come forward right now?
Wait,
governor that's going to be reelected
I want to make sure, Obi, because you're very smart. I want to make sure I understand this clearly here. Okay. So you're saying that Governor Cuomo will contact a prosecutor and demand that evidence is buried so that an ally can
Who
walk.
controls JCOPE, the ethics investigators here in New York State? The governor.
So you're saying that Governor Cuomo calls
Here's the point.
prosecutors?
I don't
know.
The JCOPE guys here in Albany.
No one of the
we
four
all
of us-
know that. Look at the number of appointees.
Nobody, I'm not, and if I don't want to confuse anyone, no one at this table knows exactly what happened in the conversation in Hoboken, and no one is purporting to know about what happened as it relates to not only that development, okay? However, or for that matter, the former prosecutor who was going after the sheriff. The point, though, is that from substance and style, there is a sophistication that I think you don't give credit to the current governor in. The idea that Cuomo's aides would literally shut down the GWB and then have the audacity to have a fight with their counterparts in New Jersey, with the world watching, as to how dare they reopen the bridge.
Have you read the reports in Rochester, New York, about where that money goes and why? Have you read about Eric Schneiderman and what he's doing up there with a prosecutor and a judge right now in Rochester?
What am I doing with my hand? I'm reaching. Okay.
No,
You're going
these
to
are
Rochester.
reports.
All right.
It's New York State. This is a governor that does the same thing here in New Jersey, in New York, as you're claiming happens in New Jersey.
Last word.
We'll see. More information is going to come out. There's a pattern here, no question. It started with the George Washington Bridge. If that never would have happened, who knows if we'd even be talking about this today with everything else that's been uncovered.
I'll do you a favor since we're near the Super Bowl. I'll give anybody here, even money odds, there's going to be somebody else from the administration that was in the loop as it related to the GWB. Anybody want to take up that bet?
I agree with maybe others.
Oh,
I agree,
sorry.
but it will not be the governor.
No, I don't think it will either, but we shall see. All right, up next here, we're going to debate what's likely to be what I think will be a key issue for the president this year, a key issue in the upcoming midterm elections, income inequality. He banged on that drum Tuesday night. We're going to debate whether or not it's going to play from coast to coast. We'll be right back after this.